Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Chancellor Jeremy Hunt's latest statements on the economy and his role in economic policy and ask, is he actually doing anything at all? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I think it's worth thinking about this. I mean, we're at a time of great economic turmoil. Some of it's aftershocks of COVID, some is the result of Putin's invasion of Europe, some of it is Brexit, some of it is simply a Conservative government still chasing unicorns in the form of economic theories long since discredited. Like, it's a basic fallacy of the Conservative Party, for example, that the private sector will provide. No, they provably don't. The private sector did not provide the COVID vaccine. Conservative government at the time knew that. That's why they threw a lot of funding into it. In fact, there was a lot of international state funding. That's what yielded it. No one had any confidence that the private sector would simply provide the solution. The state had to. The private sector's not defending Ukraine. State intervention is. The private sector's not dealing with any of the problems of Brexit insofar as there are any solutions coming forward at all. They are state solutions, such as Kent Lorry Parks and the Windsor Framework. All the private sector ever does is make money. That's it. That's its purpose. That's what it does. Sometimes it makes money from state intervention. Sometimes it doesn't. So it's worth asking, especially when you have a Conservative government and a Conservative Chancellor, what is the Treasury actually doing to deal with the cost of living crisis? It's one thing to point at this factor or that factor being responsible, even though half of them in reality are their fault. But never mind just explaining some of the issues from a very biased perspective. What are you doing about it? What has Jeremy Hunt actually done since becoming Chancellor? The bare minimum required of a Chancellor is to present each year a balanced budget. That is one where expected tax revenues and expenditure match. Only he hasn't even done that, because his budget includes a load of borrowing this year and next, but at least it was presented in a way which suggested the UK government would meet its financial obligations. Investors are calm. Investors approve of him because they can now make money. And of course it is, from the point of view of the rest of us, better than his predecessor. Well done. But even when the economy is doing well, a Chancellor who only presents a balanced budget which just ties up, expenditure with expected revenues, that would be considered unambitious. You get away with it because things are going all right, but it would be unambitious. Shouldn't they be laying the groundwork for future economic growth while they're at it? But the economy isn't doing well. It's doing exceedingly badly. So laying the groundwork for future economic growth isn't just ambition, it's essential. Jeremy Hunt has been Chancellor for 9 months. What's he actually done in that time? Even his own cabinet colleagues can't answer that. When senior members of the government are asked what they're doing, they fall back on interest rates. That's the Bank of England. What are the government doing? What's Jeremy Hunt doing? You never get an answer to that. Why aren't they able to list all the initiatives that Jeremy Hunt is implementing? Is it because there aren't any? Recently, Hunt announced that he probably won't be able to cut taxes in next year's budget. I would say be careful reading too much into that. See, some of them will think, well, hang on, well, if you look at the public finances, they're going to be in such a mess. Of course, he's not going to be able to cut taxes. We all know they wanted to. Next year's the intended election year. They absolutely want to cut taxes, but he's just accepting the reality that they've knackered the economy too much. No. Why say he won't be able to? So that when Hunt does announce tax cuts next year, he can claim he's done such a good job that he's now able to after all. He kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So it may well be that he can't present tax cuts because that would cause nervousness in the markets in much the same way as happened with Kwasi Kwarteng. But just because he says now he won't be able to doesn't mean he's not intending to. Because if he says, oh, I can't give you any tax cuts now, it's all a bit too ropey, and then next March he does, 2 things he does. First of all, he gives Tory voters the tax cuts they seem to like, but also he pretends that he's defied the doubters, that actually he's steered the economy into calmer waters. People go, oh, the economy must be doing better than we think because he said he couldn't afford tax cuts. Now he can. Oh, it must be doing better than we thought. You see? Smoke and mirrors. But that's what they do. But Hunt hasn't actually done anything, has he? He's delivered what was called the Mansion House speech last night. The Mansion House speech happens a couple of times a year, but for the Chancellor, it's like an annual summer speech where the Chancellor turns up and they are expected to deliver a speech about the state of the economy. The Chancellor is also expected to explain some of their ideas. Now, I note that one of Hunt's proposals in this speech, as reported, was to require large pension providers to commit 5% of their investments to private equity or early stage businesses, in order to boost investment. In other words, to get investors boosting investment, not just, what's the best return for us. And you think, okay, right, all right, it's better than nothing, might help. But then he described it as voluntary. Oh, so you're not going to require them to do it then? It's just a suggestion. He's not actually doing anything. He's suggesting that maybe pension funds would like to invest in something which might boost the economy. But it's totally up to them, so they can turn around and go, no, we don't want to do that. In the middle of an economic crisis that nobody believes the government's handling well, the Chancellor stood up and gave an important speech in which he announced something that might sound like a good idea, but that he won't be doing it. Oh, I've got this great idea. Oh, are you going to do that then? No. Who does that? You're under fire. It's time to make a speech to inspire confidence. And all you would do is announce what might be a good idea that you won't actually be doing. According to the report in the Financial Times, he also talked about various reviews. I mean, yes, you review things. Of course you do. Don't need to say it. The party's been in government for 13 years and both the economy and living standards are collapsing. People don't want to hear about reviews. We want to know that we want to know what's been done. We know things are being reviewed. Things are always reviewed. The Treasury, of course, is always reviewing the economy and their measures. That's what they do. What have you done? What positive impact has there been? What are you doing right now? What impact do you expect of that? What are your success criteria? In the report, there's a quote from the editorial board of the Financial Times. Now, remind you, the Financial Times is written for the people who basically own the country. It's not the popular press. It's not full of stories designed for clicks. It makes its money by providing accurate information to people who need to know, very frankly, what's going on in order to make sensible investment decisions on a large scale. The Financial Times editorial board is largely satisfied with Jeremy Hunt simply because investors are now calmer. They're able to make investment decisions from a position of sort of knowledge. They know which decisions are going to be good and which not. So this quote, this is from the ones who are broadly happy because investors are happy. Hunt has proposed pragmatic steps given the constraints, but Britain needs a much broader and bolder economic strategy, which would help pension funds make the case for investing in the country. Unfortunately, that may now have to wait for the next government. So consider what they're saying there. First of all, pick up that bit which would help pension funds make the case for investing in the country. So what they're saying is right now, pension funds are not interested in investing for the country because it's not seen as a good return. So that is not happening. We're not getting the investment in the interests of the country. They're also saying that although Hunt is not acting recklessly like his predecessor, that he's not doing anything which might help the economy either. The editorial board of the Financial Times are essentially viewing Jeremy Hunt as a sort of caretaker manager until Rachel Reeves is made Chancellor. And just to highlight how devoid of content Hunt's major annual speech was, look at the main feature, because obviously the following day the press will start picking on bits of it, interesting bits of the speech. What's been reported in the popular press today? Hunt saying that if teachers want their pay rise, it'll have to cut from cuts. It'll come from cuts elsewhere in the education budget. It's like, no. It's for the Treasury to make sure that public services are funded. You don't just get to say, well, this inflation's remaining high because of our incompetence, and now we're going to make individual head teachers and NHS managers deal with it. I mean, I don't think it's enough to look at Jeremy Hunt favourably just because his predecessor inflicted so much damage. The Treasury has options. Yes, it's true that party politics is making the exercise of some of those options tricky. Like if he boosts investment, he annoys the Conservatives who want tax cuts. If he allows public services and other national infrastructure to decline further, though, he annoys those whose constituencies will suffer most for it, mostly like the Red Wall, for example. But it's not like he's without options. You know, last year we had the bizarre spectacle. The CEO of Shell saying that their industry should be taxed more to help ease the economic crisis. If ever there was a green light for the government to rein the tax breaks back, that was it. Instead, what did we get? Rishi Sunak went, oh, I hear what you say, windfall taxes. Right, we'll apply windfall taxes to green energy producers then. All right. As well as the oil and gas companies? No, not them. Right. In the wake of the global banking crisis, we had regular updates on what the Labour Chancellor at the time, Alistair Darling, was doing. We knew what that was. Ordinary members of the public would have known at least some of the measures because they were in the news. In all seriousness, if you ask an ordinary member of the public what Jeremy Hunt has done, what are they going to say? I'm particularly interested in government policy. I don't know. Ask me what Jeremy Hunt has done. I don't know. What initiatives has he spearheaded in his 9 months? I don't know. Has he done anything? He's presented a budget. Beyond that, as far as I know, he could be putting his feet up every day. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.